It's case number 379 on the calendar in the matter of Simpson versus Elwood.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Judge Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Elwood, you needed a babysitter for your two children.
Yes.
You have custody of your two children?
Yes.
How long have you and their mother been separated?
Almost a year.
And you have primary full-time custody?
Yes.
Is that by court order or consent?
Yes.
Court order. How old are the children?
My son is 20 months and my daughter is 5.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a driver.
What kind of a driver?
Truck driver.
So you work odd hours. You have different assignments. So you needed a babysitter and you hired the plaintiff. And she says you owe her some money. You say not only don't you owe her any money, but she owes you money because she caused you some distress. And the reason she caused you distress is because when the mother of your children came over to visit, she was concerned because she smelled marijuana around the plaintiff, and she called Child Protective Services, and they got involved with you. It caused you emotional distress.
That wasn't what it was about. The distress that was caused to my children was when she came there high on methamphetamines. She came to my residence at 11 o'clock at night, banging on my door, kicking on my door, screaming, "Give me my money," and my children were there.
Okay. How many days did she babysit for you, and give me the dates?
She babysat for 3 days, and I believe it was...
3 days in total that she babysat for you?
For this case, it was...
No.
Oh, in total...
For this case, I want you to tell me how many days she babysat for you in total.
We have 5 days, maybe?
And your agreement was that you were supposed to pay her $100 a day.
Correct.
How many days did you work for him?
8.
Which days did you work for him?
November 7th, the November 8th, and then it goes down to the 12th.
Just a minute. Then you didn't work for him again until the 12th.
Yes, it was the weekend, and it was a long weekend.
11, 12. Go ahead.
The 13th.
12th, the 13th.
14th.
Yes.
And the 15th.
Okay. Well, that's 6 days, not 8 days.
Okay. 6.
He says 5. You say 8. Both of you were wrong. Had to be someplace in the middle. Are you counting a day that you went to his house when he didn't answer the door?
No, not yet.
So you actually worked those days?
Yes. I was there 24 hours sleeping.
That's okay. What hours did you work on the 12th?
On the 12th, I got there at 4 a.m., and he got home about, I would say 9 o'clock.
9 in the morning or at night?
At night.
And the 13th?
I stayed there overnight with him. He told me he was too exhausted.
No. Just a second. So you stayed from 9 p.m. on the 12th, and you stayed overnight into...
12th, I was there at 4 in the morning.
4? Mm-hmm. But then he came home at 9 p.m.
Yes.
Did you go back to your house at 9 p.m. or did you stay?
I stayed.
You stayed. And on the 13th, what time did you leave?
I didn't leave, ma'am. I stayed until up to the 15th.
So you stayed and spent the night?
Yes, ma'am.
And what time did you leave on the 15th?
It was about 7 or 8.
In the morning or at night?
Okay, and those dates that she just gave you, the 14th she left, and that was when I paid her $300 in cash that my witness can testify to. She left on the 14th. My work schedule was from 7 to 7. I was working on the show where I was only doing 12s.
And on the 15th?
The 15th, she only worked for 3 hours because my ex came, and that was one of her visit days. So my ex came in the morning, took our daughter to school, came back, got our son, because she told me she was leaving, going out of town on a family trip. She couldn't work the full day.
So how much did you pay her for the 15th?
We agreed that for that day we were going to do $40, and the original agreement was that we were going to do $100 a day, and the way it worked was at the end of my job, when I got my check, that I was going to pay her. But because she had stated that she was going out of town on a family trip, I told her that, you know what, here, why don't I do this? I owe you for 3 days. Why don't I pay you for those 3 days now? Because I got paid, I got the cash. I'll pay you for those 3 days, and then tomorrow you're only going to work for 3 hours, so how's $40 sound? She agreed to $40. My witness can testify to that as well. I then said, okay, well, we'll take that $40 and put that at the end of next week, then that's when I'll pay you. On the 18th is when she came to my residence at 11 o'clock at night, demanding her money, and she was completely drenched in sweat.
Just a second. Did she call you before she came to your residence?
She had,
Shh, listen.
Yes, 40 times.
Just a second. So, careful. She called you for the first time asking for her money on what date?
On the 18th.
What time?
The phone call started at like 7 o'clock in the morning.
Was she supposed to come on the 18th? The answer is yes.
Yes.
And she arrived at your house at what time?
4 in the morning.
Which is the time you usually leave?
No.
Yes.
My hours were normally from 5:30 till 6 p.m.
Did you get up late on the 18th?
I did. Absolutely. And
Why, just a second.
I have failed to set the alarm on my phone. In which case, when I woke up, I had contacted her right away, started calling her, texting her, saying, I'm so sorry.
What time? You would have it on your phone.
It would be around 7 o'clock that I started texting her and calling her, asking her, please answer your phone. Let's work this out. I'm sorry. It was my fault. I failed to set my alarm and my phone was on vibrate. It was an accident and I do apologize.
Okay.
Will you please call me back or answer your phone so we can work this out? Never heard back from her at all. She wouldn't call me back. So then I ended up calling a mutual friend of ours that was looking for work and asked him if he could come down and fill in for the day. He came down and did the job. Well, that was the day that all of a sudden I had Department of Children's Services show up at my house. 2 hours later, Sheriff's Department showed up at my house.
That wasn't her.
No, absolutely. I'm not saying that it was. It was because of the fact that they smelt the marijuana on her.
Nobody smelled marijuana.
They did smell marijuana on her because she confessed to smoking pot.
Just a minute. Show me. Show me.
Show you what?
Show me a police report. Show me a something that says that. That's what I'd like to see. Great.
Right here is a tick report that shows that they were...
I just want to see a report where it says that the police officer smelled, tasted, whatever.
Your Honor.
Shh.
No, she wasn't there when the police...
There is no
had came.
cop.
Just a second. Then it doesn't exist. Then it's hearsay unless you have a police officer with you. Did you ever pay her for the 18th? Yes, you did. She arrived at 4 o'clock. You weren't up. Did you ever pay her the $40 that you agreed to pay her for the 15th?
No.
Okay.
Which I don't dispute
Now,
that I owe her that.
what kind of sneakers did you leave there or carriage?
Adidas with the white lines.
Do you know where they are?
No, there's
I
no
left
Adidas.
them where his kids leave their shoes at, under the little counter. Because I walk his kids to school every day and back, so I brought my own walking shoes instead of sandals.
This is the first time even hearing about this.
And what about a carriage? What kind of carriage?
It's a stroller. It's a $20 stroller. His stroller was too heavy for me to climb upstairs with, so I brought my own from home.
Do you have that?
Absolutely, and I had asked her to please come and take her stroller.
Where?
When she came to the residence demanding her money, her stroller was right outside where she left it. And I'd asked her, when I told her, I want you to leave my residence and don't ever come back.
Why didn't you take your stroller?
There was not there, ma'am. It was only his big stroller.
That's not true at all.
Yeah, I don't think I believe you. Okay, you owe her $140. Now, this counterclaim that you have was for her coming to your house and banging on the door and asking for her money?
No, it was because my children were in the home. She started kicking the door and knocking things off the walls, and I kept telling her, you know what, I'm going to call the sheriff's department if you don't leave. My children are here, they see you. She's drenched in sweat, skin is greasy, the pupils are dilated. And I said, you're high. And she said, and that's when she told me, well, I smoke pot. I said, no, this isn't pot. You're high on methamphetamines. And she said, oh, I don't do that stuff. And I said, so but my ex said that she smelled marijuana.
Don't tell me what your ex said. I'm not interested what your ex said.
Okay.
She may be an expert on drugs, your ex. I don't know.
Okay.
Listen to me. I'm not sure, and she's not even here. You owe her $140. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She sat there and admitted that she smokes pot, but she doesn't do methamphetamines.
I think he's for lying on TV saying that I'm on drugs
You can't be at 11 o'clock at night, sweaty as hell, looking like you just ran a marathon,
when I'm not.
coming over there demanding money, speaking in a term that was so fast.
I knocked on the door asking for my money. He should have given me my money.
And my witness had a hard time even understanding what she was saying.
It takes one to know one, so he's definitely on drugs also.
What upsets me the most is that my children had to see this and be involved in this.
I'm going to sign contracts and make sure they give me money up front.
And now I fear for other children that are out there that this woman might be watching.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Adent versus Delaney. Step forward.
Deborah and John Adent are suing their neighbor, Howard Delaney, for damage to their pool caused by his horse.
Mr. and Mrs. Adant, it is your claim that Mr. Delaney's horse damaged your pool in your house to the tune of a little over $2,000, and you want him to be responsible for the repairs. Mr. Delaney said it was not his fault that the damage was caused to your pool. The incident occurred because there was a severe windstorm. Is that right?
There was severe windstorm, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
And on what date was the windstorm?
December 17th, 2012.
How long have you been neighbors?
We moved into the property in 2009. So prior to the incident, it was about 3 years.
How long are you there?
I've been there 27 years, Your Honor.
And you have a horse? One horse or more?
One horse at the time of this incident. I've had more horses on the property previously.
How many acres do you have?
5.
And prior to the plaintiffs moving in, was there a fence separating your property and theirs?
The predecessors in interest to the plaintiff's property actually moved in, and I had a chain link fence with cemented posts. When the predecessors in interest to the property decided to build a pool, they wanted so they removed the chain link fence that I had.
With your permission?
With my permission, and erected a wood panel and post fence, and that's the fence that ultimately failed.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Spoke with Howard. I said, my fence has been compromised. And then points to his shed as he's leaving. He says, there's wire and stakes over there. Why don't you build a fence? And I just said, you just reassured me this horse would never come in.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Deborah and John Aident say neighbor Howard Delaney owes for damage to their pool caused by his horse. Howard claims the damage is due to the Aident's negligence.
So prior to the plaintiffs moving in, you had erected a fence that was not as attractive but sturdier.
Correct.
And for several years, the fence that the prior owners had put in adequately separated the two properties and kept your horse from going onto their property.
It did.
Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. So now there is a windstorm, which is an act of God, which takes down your fence, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And when it took down your fence, his horse was able to get into your backyard and cause damage to the pool.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see this happen?
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you describe it to me?
On the morning of December 17th, I watched the first fence panel come down in the high winds, knowing that the only thing that could destroy our backyard, because the rest of his property was fenced, was his horse. I went and knocked on all his doors. No one answered the doors. So I went across the street to our neighbor, and I asked if she could please call him. And she called him on his home and cell phones. He answered the cell phone, I believe, and she handed me the phone. I spoke with Howard. I said, my fence has been compromised. I'm worried about your horse getting in my yard. And he said, I'll come over in a few hours. Later, his son, Matt, and he showed up. By then, I'd lost a couple more panels to the high winds. And he tried to prop them up, and he said, I can't fix your fence. I said, Howard, I don't want you to fix my fence. I'm worried about your horse coming into my backyard.
Why didn't you fix your fence?
Man, there were 70-mile-an-hour winds, and the ground's frozen. I can't build a fence. I didn't know what to do. And then he assured me, ma'am, he said, there's no way my horse will step over those down fence panels. She said, there's no way she's coming in your backyard. And I said, Howard, what am I going to do if I find your horse in my backyard? She said, you call me. I said, well, I don't even have your phone number, Howard. So he came in the house. He wrote down his phone numbers on a piece of paper, which I kept. And then to his shed as he's leaving, he says, there's wire and stakes over there. Why don't you build a fence?
Your fence was clearly inadequate.
Yes, Your Honor, but it's not the first time the horse has been out of his pasture.
It doesn't matter. The only weak link was yours.
Yeah.
I don't know why you think he's responsible.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Go ahead.
May I answer that, Your Honor?
Sure.
Your Honor, the revised Code of Washington, which I have, clearly states that we are not responsible to keep his animal off our property. It is responsibility of the owner of the animal to keep it off our property. I have the code here, and it says, may I read it?
Don't read me from the code. Most codes say the owner of any animal, their responsibility is to keep their property adequately safeguarded so that their animals don't trespass on other people's property. The problem is Mr. Delancey had done that. And when you inherited property where the prior owner of your property had taken down his secure fence. Now, you had the capability, if you wanted to build another stronger fence in addition to what I consider more of a decorative fence in order to keep his horse out. The problem is your decorative fence had served its purpose for 3 years. Then there was an act of God, like a windstorm. If there was a windstorm, as your wife says, that's no different from there being a tornado. Let us assume there was a tornado, and the tornado sucked up all the fences, and his horse got out. Do you think he would be responsible for the damage?
In that circumstance, ma'am, no.
So you are qualifying what is termed an act of God and what is not. And the reason your swimming pool was damaged is because your fence fell down.
And he doesn't have one, Your Honor.
It's our fence.
It's on our property.
Listen to me. You're not following. He had one. And you knew, or should have known, that there were other kinds of fencing. You're a homeowner. That's more than just decorative fencing.
It's not decorative fencing, Your Honor. It's a 6-foot cedar wooden privacy fence that's sunk in concrete.
Listen to me. It didn't hold.
I understand
That's
that.
not his fault.
And
That's your fault.
The horse isn't my fault, though.
The fence is your fault, which permitted the horse to enter your property. You should have put up a stronger fence if you wanted it.
He doesn't have a fence to take his horse up
It's
from
not
us.
our responsibility.
Just a second. I've just explained myself to you 16 ways from Sunday. You may not like the result. I don't find him responsible for your down fence, which is the primary reason that horse got out and caused damage to your swimming pool. You knew he had horses. You bought the property knowing that he had animals. He says he's had animals before you moved in. Is that true?
Yes, Your
So
Honor.
you knew he had animals, and you knew that one of the reasons for the fence was to keep the animals out.
No,
if
Your
you
Honor.
were satisfied that your privacy fence was sufficiently secure to keep the animals out, so be it. And it was for 3 years. This was an act of God for which you don't get compensated. Goodbye.
Advisor excused. You may step out.
I guess we're going to have to go to city and request that his fence be placed 10 feet off of our fence line to keep the horse from coming back.
I had fences that would suffice.
While the fence was under construction, the horse came back.
The ADENS actually took down my temporary other fence.
And I had to stand out there guard in my own backyard to keep their horse from coming on my private property.
When they built their new fence, that's why she had to guard. They didn't tell me they were taking down my fence.
20 firemen, 8 trucks, 3 hours later.
Actually, the firemen nor the police got the horse out of the pool. It was a friend of mine and I built steps.
We had to extricate him from the pool with steps had to be built in my pool.
I hope we can just go back to being neighbors. They were reasonably friendly before.
Well,
For a very long time. Don't you ever watch it?
A couple discovers the danger of a joint bank account.
You took the money out of the account, and you probably shouldn't have.
We were still in a relationship and he wasn't talking to me. I took it out after I found out he was cheating on me.
You know, that's a reason to go to see a therapist. It's not a reason to empty a bank account.
Judge Judy.
See what happens when you try to get somebody's attention? Sometimes it bites you in the behind.
You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheindlin. This is Judge Judy. Joel Hills Garcia is suing his ex-boyfriend, Justin Haywood, for draining their joint checking account and for overdraft fees.
Order. All rise. This is case number 187 on the calendar, the matter of Hills Garcia versus Hayward.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat. You're welcome, Judge.
Mr. Garcia, it is your claim that Mr. Haywood, with whom you were involved in a relationship, drained a joint bank account after the two of you separated. And you had put the vast majority of the money in that bank account, so you want to be reimbursed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Probably not happening. Mr. Haywood, I'm not exactly sure what your defense is. You say it's a joint bank account and I have every right to take out as much money as I want, right?
Correct.
You're right. How's that? And then you have a ridiculous counterclaim, which I'm probably just going to give you 3 minutes to annoy me and tell me about. Okay. Just for my own information, Mr. Garcia, am I correct that you met sometime in December of last year, and by February you opened a joint bank account with him?
Yes, Your Honor.
How old are you?
27.
27. I've had this Don't you ever watch it?
I do watch it.
So you always learned a couple of things, you should take away a couple of things. One, you never sell a car to a relative, a used car. That's number one. Never lend any money to somebody and really expect to get it back. Because people usually say, I needed it, was a loan, but now you want it back and you insulted my great aunt, so I'm not paying you back. So there's always a reason. The other thing is, when you open up a joint bank account, because were you living together?
No, we weren't.
You were never living together?
Yes, we were. We were staying in hotels together. We were staying in hotels together for the majority of our relationship.
Okay, so you were living together for that couple of months' time. When you play house, as opposed to marrying and having a legal relationship where you can say, listen, I'm going to buy a car together, we'll take out a mortgage in both our names, we'll pool our money in a bank account. But I got to tell you, there isn't a judge that I know, and this is certainly not one to outstep the pack, that will say, I'm going to look in a joint bank account and say, well, I deposited this and we paid this much for this, and I deposited that and paid this much for that, because it's ridiculous. So I'd like you to tell me why in the world you opened up a joint bank account after you met somebody and knew them for 2 months.
Mr. Haywood actually asked me that we should get a joint account together, and so...
He what?
He asked me if I could get a joint account, we should get a joint account together. We were in agreement of it.
Just a second. Well, I'm asking you. I'm asking you why.
Because at the time I just had my EDD for unemployment, and I actually didn't have a bank account, so he suggested we get an account together.
So is what you're telling me he had money and you didn't?
No, I had money. I had an actual joint account. I had a bank. I was getting paid by the state of California for disability and then unemployment. So
Just a second. How long were you on disability?
Approximately 3 months.
And then you went on unemployment.
Correct.
Did you lose your disability because they found you were not disabled?
No. My doctor took me off of disability because of the fact that my employer terminated me because due to economic hardships.
Okay. Now, when you open up a joint bank account with someone, the money is pooled. We don't say this deposit was made by you and this deposit was made by you. Silly. But, Mr. Hayward, I'm just asking you, just because legally he's not entitled to any money. You took the money out of the account and you probably shouldn't have, right?
Correct.
Okay. So if you knew that you shouldn't have, because it wasn't money that you actually put into the account, and the relationship was over.
It wasn't actually over at the time.
Oh.
Until I caught him cheating.
Well, just a second. Give me the date that you took the money out of the account. I just want to know the people that I'm dealing with, because then I'm going to go to your counterclaim.
I was on April 20th, 2015.
4/20 is when you took the money out?
Well, it was actually the date that I actually just transferred it into our joint savings account.
You took it out of the joint
Checking account and put it into the joint savings account.
On April 20th?
On April 20th.
Just a second.
Yes.
And you did that why?
Because Mr. Hills Garcia wasn't communicating with me. We were still in a relationship, and he wasn't talking to me.
Were you still living together in a hotel?
Well, a week before we were at a hotel, but then his aunt had come. He said he was taking care of her, and then he was making all these excuses why he couldn't see me. So I hadn't communicated with him over a week, and I had been texting him.
Okay, so you hadn't communicated with him, and your response to that was going to remove the money from the joint checking and put it in a joint savings. When had you opened up the joint savings?
They were both open at actually the same time, Your Honor.
Because you wanted to be like a couple.
Right.
But not really a couple. Okay. And how much did you take out?
I took out $1,950, not enough to still to keep money in to have anything pending. So the
You
account
took out $1,950.
$1,950.
Tell me why you took it out.
I actually was with the witness here, his ex-wife. I didn't know what else to do because I knew he was using the account, but he still wasn't communicating with me at the time.
I mean, you know, that's a reason to go to see a therapist. It's not a reason to empty a bank account.
Right. No, but
Unless
I still
you wanted his attention.
I wanted his attention, but
Okay,
it's not
so
like
you
I
put it in
yes.
a joint savings account.
And then I took it out after I found out he was cheating on me.
And what did you do with it?
Well, I took out the money out of the savings account when I found that out, and then I was still texting him after he was demanding the money from me, which I have proof of, out of that account, and so he could talk about like what was going on with our relationship.
Okay, so it was to get his attention.
More so, yes.
So there was a week's period of time when you were not communicating, but you weren't sure whether you were still a couple or not.
Right.
Had you gone to your sister's house, Mr. Garcia? Did that have something? Or...
I moved into my parents' house because my great
Okay,
aunt.
so you moved out of where you were living with Mr. Hayward, moved into your parents' house.
Yeah.
Okay, but you weren't together for that week, and it was about a week's period of time when he was trying to communicate with you.
It was like 3 days.
Oh, 3 days. First thing you should have done, close out the account, right?
Correct.
Because the law says that each one of you has the right to all of the money or none of the money in a joint account. That's what a joint account is, right? Because I assume that when you found out that this money had been withdrawn, you went to the bank.
Correct, went to the bank.
And you said, why did you give him the money? Did you ask anybody why they gave him the money?
I talked to the branch manager.
Right.
And
the branch manager told you that it was a joint account and he had every right to do that.
she said, take it to court for a civil matter.
She said he had every right to do it because it's a joint account. That's why you don't open a joint account. Now I want you to tell me about your nonsense counterclaim. You have about 30 seconds of my time.
Well, I'm countersuing because of the money taken out of the account, he started threatening and harassing me.
Yeah, so...
And I had to actually file a restraining order, which was granted by the Ventura County courts for that. And I had to retain a lawyer for this. And he also did a retaliation.
Just a second. Did you hire a lawyer?
Yes.
How much did it cost you?
For the retainer, for all the, was $4,000.
$4,000, a lot more than the $1,950 that you took out.
Yes, there was a lot of...
See what happens when you try to get somebody's attention? Sometimes it bites you in the behind.
Right. And also for the personal property that I divided in half from when we actually separated that he still has, which I divided in half. That's all I'm actually kind of saying.
You know what happens, Mr. Hayward, when you do the wrong thing?
What's that?
When you do the wrong thing and you come into a court of equity, the court of equity doesn't want to help you. There are lots of things that you could do to get the attention of a former partner, friend, lover, boyfriend, girlfriend. One of the things you don't do is, even if you're entitled by law to take it, if you're taking it because you're just looking to get their attention, but you know in your gut that it's the wrong thing to do, judges, especially this one, is disinclined to lend you a hand. So, Mr. Garcia, this is the situation, sir. When you open up a joint bank account with somebody, be prepared for them to take out everything. That's what the bank told you. That's what I'm telling you. And you have no counterclaim. You had to hire a lawyer to get a restraining order against him. You spent twice as much, according to you, as you took out of the account. That would be too bad.
Well, Your Honor, it's because every single partner he's been with, he's had restraining orders against them. His ex-husband, his ex-wife can be attempted to that.
Listen, this is Reader's Digest. This isn't War and Peace. Right now I'm dealing with what I have here. He would not have bothered you at all had you not taken out money that rightfully, in all probability, was his.
Actually,
Correct.
Your Honor, I have proof that we had a verbal agreement that before we opened the joint account, I have proof right here, I can show you, of all the charges from the hotels, everything, our joint charges.
Do you think that we're involved?
Well.
Courts aren't involved with that.
I also have his tax return that he gave me, which is with my address, that he promised me to pay the money from all the hotels. I have the tax return that he had given me to prove how much he had
Mr.
gotten.
Haywood, my dear, you told me a moment money out of the account. Let me repeat, because my short-term memory is pretty reasonable at this time. You told me that you took the money out of the account because you wanted to get his... Don't interrupt me.
Yes.
Because you wanted to get his attention. Because he refused to answer your calls and texts. Then you said you put it into the savings account, which was a joint account, because once you got his attention, you were going to do the right thing and give him back the money. Just that was the suggestion, Mr. Haywood. Then you intimated that you found him cheating on you and you took the money for yourself. That's what you just told me.
Correct,
Your case is dismissed. That's all. Yours too. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
After I saw him and, cheating with his ex-husband,
I wasn't cheating at all with my ex-husband. He's a liar.
that's pretty much when I thought that was it. That was it for our relationship.
And he's been trying to do this the whole time. He's just mad because I don't want to be with him anymore.
All he had to do was actually talk to me in the end, and we could have settled this out of court.
He's very aggressive, very abusive, and I just had enough of it.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Clark versus Gambin. Step forward.
Cindy Clark is suing her ex-boyfriend, Richard Gambin, for the cost of airline tickets to Italy.
Ms. Clark, it is your claim that the defendant who you were dating owes you for airline tickets that you purchased for the two of you.
Yes, ma'am.
According to you, the relationship didn't last as long as the trip. The airline tickets were non-refundable, according to you, so you just didn't go. Cancel the tickets. And you want Mr. Gambin to pay you for both tickets, yours and his.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why don't you tell me the conversation that you had with Mr. Gambin with regard to the airline tickets? Because that's simple. That's what the case was about. You have some sort of a ridiculous counterclaim claiming she libeled you. Did she call you a thief?
Just short of that.
That's what she thinks, because you didn't pay her back for the airline tickets. That doesn't mean that she's allowed to say vicious and insidious things about you, but if she calls you a deadbeat, that's what she thinks about you. Do you understand?
Correct.
Great.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now she doesn't seem like such an idiot to go and book the tickets 3 days after you met, when you were wooing her and said, I want to take you to Italy. Even when I was growing up in Brooklyn, they said, let's go to Queens. I mean, that was a big deal.
That was a big deal.
Cindy Clark says ex-boyfriend Richard Gamblin owes for the cost of airline tickets to Italy. Richard is caught for job endangerment and libel.
Okay, so tell me about the conversation. When did it take place? Where did it take place with regard to the airline tickets?
It took place 3 days after we started dating. He told me...
Just a second.
Yes.
Which was on what date?
Our first date was December 31st, 2014.
So it took place
3 days later.
First week in January.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
The first week in
Let me
January.
hear.
And he told me that he would like to take me to Italy with him this summer. He goes back there every year for 3 weeks of teaching. And he told me that he would like to take me there with him.
Good. And
I started researching airline tickets for the next few weeks and found some tickets that were very good priced and told him about it. And he said, that's a great price, baby. And so we decided to book our tickets. And on the day that we booked them, he said he didn't have the money right then. I said, I can put the tickets on my credit card. You can pay me back before the trip takes place. He agreed to this.
I don't believe you. A, I don't believe you because I'm looking at your face and I don't believe the story. That's number one. And number two, any woman that's your age meets a guy 3 days later says, I'm going to invest $4,000 in airline tickets because he says to me, I meet him in December 31st and this summer he says, I want to take you to Italy, baby. He has to be missing a few screws. Either that or it didn't exactly happen that way.
I didn't answer him right away with a yes or a no. I'm going to Italy.
You said I started researching the tickets
did.
right away. On what date did you purchase the tickets?
March 16th.
Show me. Okay, so the 2 adult tickets were $4,000. Your ticket you can use. Well, that's what it says in the letter.
Yes, I can.
That's what it says in the letter. So your ticket you can use. You have to pay an exchange fee, but your ticket you can use. So why are you suing him for $4,000?
Because I will never use that ticket.
Who cares?
And go to Italy.
Who cares? It doesn't say you have to go to Italy. It says you could go anywhere.
Yes, I can. And I lose. If I take a trip to, say, Nebraska or Colorado, it costs me $300
I don't
to
care.
rebook the ticket.
I don't care.
Okay.
But that's not particularly relevant to me. Mr. Gambon, she bought the tickets in March, which means that you were sort of dating January and February, so 2.5 months. Now she doesn't seem like such an idiot to go and book the tickets 3 days after you met, when you were wooing her and said, I want to take you to Italy. Me, when I was growing up, they said, in Brooklyn, they said, let's go to Queens. I mean, that was a big deal.
That was a big deal.
Things changed. I'm going to take you to Italy. But now you know that she bought these 2 tickets, right?
Correct.
Okay. And there's no question in my mind, so pay attention. There's no question in my mind that she told you about the exchange policy. You know, you couldn't just cancel it and get your money back. That's one of the reasons that you got a cheap fare, right?
Correct.
Okay. And on what date do you break up?
February the 3rd? Or I'm sorry, April 3rd or April 2nd, somewhere around
Fine.
there?
So a few weeks after she purchased the tickets, which you can use, right? You can use it. So use it. It can't be transferred to anyone whose name is not your name, which is Gamblin.
Correct.
So only Mr. Gamblin can use the ticket. And I assume, since you weren't lying to her when you say you go to Italy every summer, right?
Correct.
Why don't you use the ticket to go?
Well,
Well is not a good answer. And don't try to make things up. If you go to Italy every summer, why don't you use this ticket, which was a good deal?
because she broke my heart.
Who cares? I don't know if
I'm
she broke
sorry,
your...
she broke my heart.
I don't... Well, that would mean that would...
Okay, so I could use a ticket, but the idea is that she is not just suing you for the ticket. She wants...
No, just a second. You think she wants to send you to Italy?
No, I do not
Just
assume
a
that
second.
at all.
Well, what do you mean she wants? Of course she wants the money for the ticket. She wants the money for your ticket. She wants the money for hers too. That she's not going to get. But she wants the money. She's not going with you. You're going to go use this ticket. What's wrong with that? She's already paid for the ticket.
Why can't I use another ticket I purchased something with my own money?
Because that would be vindictive and stupid. And you're not stupid, are you? I mean, you're arrogant, but you're not stupid.
No, I'm not stupid.
So it would be stupid for you if you have this ticket not to use it and to avoid being made a fool of in front of 10 million people and say, you know what, Miss Clark, it didn't work out, but I know you bought these tickets. I'm not paying for your ticket. Give me my ticket, which I have here. I'll give you the $2,000 for my ticket. I'll change the time if that's what it takes to go. I'll change the time, and here's my half. We're not a couple anymore. Why wouldn't you do that?
Because from the beginning of our relationship, she never, ever asked for any money in return. She always bought everything for
Just
us.
a second. I don't care. Right now, you're not in a relationship.
That's true.
She doesn't care about you anymore. I don't care whether you do care about her, whether you don't care about her. I'm just asking you a very logical question. Why can't you use this ticket to go, which is a perfectly good ticket? Pay her for the ticket and go. You would pay for the ticket anyway, unless the airline is going to pay for your ticket for nothing. You're going to pay for an airline ticket. Why not pay her for the airline ticket that she got in March, which is probably a much better deal than you can get in April or May? I'm just looking for a logical reason. And don't tell me about your heart, because I don't care about your heart. And don't tell me about the beginning of your relationship. I'm talking meat and potatoes here to you, Gamblin. Do you understand? Is there any reason why you don't use this ticket?
I don't want to use it because she bought it.
You're a moron.
That's simple.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. Your counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
Why is that excused? You may step out.
Because he thought I was weak.
I loved her very hard and completely.
I'm not. He just never saw that side of me that I could stand up for myself.
After the act, of course, she was trying to buy my affection.
Sometimes you just need to dig down deep
Because of all the money she threw at me.
and find that backbone
She taught me a good lesson.
and stand up for what's right.
Hills left a great deal to be desired.
A reward for his girlfriend's daughter.
The kid was flunking out of school. Just take away her phone.
I'd been buying her phones for a number of years.
But the rules are different at Dad's house.
Almost immediately, I took the phone away.
My daughter said that her dad had put the phone on the floor and stepped on it.
Take away her phone, take away her car, take away her computer.
Judge Judy. You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheinland. This is Judge Judy. Dean Crutchfield is suing his stepdaughter's father, Timothy Kerrigan, for the value of 2 cell phones and emotional distress.
Order. All rise.
This is case number 145 on the calendar, the matter of Crutchfield versus Carrigan.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
Mr. Crutchfield, how long have you been married to your present wife?
April 2013, or rather 2003, but we are divorced. We're just common law considered under the law, sir. We are divorced.
There's no common law marriage anywhere, Mr. Crutchfield. So, when were you divorced?
We divorced April 2005.
Why?
I see. Irreconcilable differences. I was...
Give me a reason, Mr. Crutchfield.
I don't know what the reason in her mind was, sir.
No, give me a reason that I'm going to understand.
Most likely to be discernible as I could not stay sober at that time.
Well, but now you've been together because you say you live in common law, which means that you live together. You mean you could stay sober if you're divorced, but you can't stay sober if you're married?
No, sir. No, ma'am. Not at all. I finally hit my rock bottom when I lost my family, and at that date, Mother's Day 2005, haven't had a drop of liquor since.
So then, why didn't you remarry?
Water under the bridge, Your Honor.
Water under the bridge.
Fell out of love, I guess.
Okay. This is what the case is about, Mr. Crutchfield. This lady, who is the lady that you live with, has a daughter with this gentleman. You were married?
Yes.
And when were you divorced?
It would have been 2002.
You have one child?
Correct.
And at the time of the divorce in 2002, how old was your daughter?
My daughter was 4 years old.
Who had custody of her?
I did.
For how long?
Until she was in 4th grade. The custody order changed at that point.
And why was that?
I was living in New Braunfels, moved up there for a job, and she agreed to let me and my daughter move up there for that job. And then I got a letter from an attorney saying I moved illegally over 100 miles away. And my daughter wanted to go live with her, so I let her go live with her.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Shh. Don't interrupt. So at that point, your daughter went to live with her mother.
Correct.
And at that point, her boyfriend.
Yes.
Now, did there come a time when your daughter came back to live with you?
Yes.
When?
In 8th grade, she was missing a lot of school, and she was basically going to flunk out. And I took over custody of her. And she did. She excelled and did very, very well.
And then she went back to her mother?
I'm a little more strict.
She went back to her mother.
Right.
And then there was a time when she came back to live with you.
My daughter called me at school. She was going to high school. And unfortunately, they were getting ready to ask her to leave.
And how old was she at that point?
She was 16.
Okay. Stand up, please. Your last name is?
Kerrigan.
Why were they asking your daughter to leave school?
She was skipping a lot of school. I was not made aware of it.
That's being truant. How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
17 and 27.
So the 27-year-old is no longer your responsibility?
No.
Good. So you have one child. You're supposed to know whether that child is missing school.
Well, yes.
You're supposed to know.
I'm supposed to know.
You're
They never
supposed-
called me.
It's not somebody else's fault.
Okay.
It's your fault. You have a 17-year-old child that gets reports.
I'm sorry.
That's every quarter. And the report cards, they have to be signed. And if your daughter is forging your signature, you're supposed to be together enough to know, gee, I haven't seen a report card this quarter. Both of you. Because according to your complaint, you were like her father. You call her daughter.
Correct.
Okay. Now, this is what the case is about. Child was with you. And against his wishes, you purchased a phone for her. And he didn't let her have a phone. And according to you, he either broke or dismantled the phone. So far, is that the general theme of your case?
Not actually, Your Honor.
Well, why don't you tell me about it?
I'd been buying her phones for a number of years.
I don't care whether you've been buying her phones. Right now,
I
she is
do.
not in your house. She's in her father's
No,
house.
she was not. He has been lying to you, Your Honor.
Just a second. Are you telling me that at the time you purchased this phone and gave it to her, because I read your complaint, she was not living with her father?
That is correct. She was in our home.
So you purchased a phone for her when?
November 2014.
And when did she go to her father's house?
She went to her father's house when I had surgery in January
Of?
2015. He doesn't have dates right at all, sir. Ma'am.
It's okay.
And he's lying about a few other matters as well.
Let me tell you what he's not lying about. He's not lying about the fact that at some point he did not want his daughter to have a phone because she was flunking out of school. The reason she was flunking out of school, according to her mother, was because she was truant. There were probably a lot of other reasons that she was flunking out of school. She was flunking out of school because if you don't go to school, you fail. Now, when your daughter came to you in January, did she have a phone with her?
She
Is
did.
not an answer.
She had a broken older phone.
I don't care what.
But yeah, she did have a phone, ma'am.
And what kind of discussion did you have with her about the phone?
Almost immediately, I took the phone away.
Okay. Did you tell Mr. Crutchfield that you took the phone away and that he should cut her out of the plan?
I had asked him on one occasion. I had called him up and spoke to him and said,
Listen to me. You're fumfering.
"Okay,
I don't like fumfering. My question was a simple one. Did you tell Mr. Crutchfield?
Yes.
When did you tell Mr. Crutchfield?
Late January.
Did the conversation take place on the phone or in person?
Phone.
You remember the conversation?
Didn't happen, sir. Man, sorry, forgive me, Your Honor. Ma'am, it did not happen.
Okay. Well, when
Another
did you know,
fabrication.
Mr. Crutchfield, that Mr. Kerrigan was unhappy or was not permitting his daughter to have a phone?
Never. And all the times I have bought phones over the years,
Now,
probably
listen to me.
6.
I don't care how many
getting
phones
to
you
a
bought
point.
her.
Sorry.
Listen to me. I don't care how many phones you bought her while she was living with you and her mother. Evidently, your parenting skills left a great deal to be desired, because there aren't many 16-year-olds who can't make it out of high school. And it's not as if you have 20 children that you have to supervise, only one. And the first thing that I would do if a kid was flunking out of school, not going to school, flunking all of her classes, which she clearly was if she wasn't going to school, is take away her phone. Not buy her a lot of phones, take away her phone. Take away her phone, take away her car, take away her computer, take away anything of value, anything that she can connect with other people to, because they don't play hooky alone, you see. They play hooky with friends, and they connect with their friends via their equipment. So the first thing that I would do as a responsible parent was remove the phone, which you clearly didn't do, because you said to me, I bought lots of phones. Do you get my drift, Mr. Crutchfield?
Clearly. I'd just like to be able to finish what I'm saying. Well,
Clearly. So right now, Mr. Crutchfield, you have to understand you are an interloper. You're not a stepfather. You have no status as a stepfather. You're not a biological father. For your own reasons, which I'm not going to explore right now, because I have a feeling that I wouldn't like the answer if I started to explore the reason that you didn't in 2005 once you sobered up, because now we're in 2015. So you have no nexus to this child other than the fact that she's lived in your home. And she probably visited your home during some period of time when you were not sober, which is, according to you, the reason for your divorce.
not accurate, Your Honor.
Never stayed with you while you were drinking.
For a very, very brief time.
Right.
But his
Okay.
sequence, may I say something? His chronological order is completely unfounded. He has been lying. I haven't had an opportunity to explain
Mr. Crutchfield,
anything.
Mr. Crutchfield,
Yes.
I know what your lawsuit is. Your lawsuit says that he destroyed a phone that you had purchased for her, according to you, in November of 2014. Now, my question was, how do you know that he dismantled and destroyed the phone?
I first found out through Tammy when her daughter had told her on the phone. Then she presented this phone.
Oh, just a second. So your daughter called you. He didn't have a conversation with her. Tell me about the conversation you had with your daughter.
My daughter was very upset because she said that her dad had put the phone on the floor and stepped on it and shattered it. And then she brought me the physical phone and showed it to me. And he claims he dropped it, but that's not a dropped phone.
Just a second. Did you have a conversation with your former husband about what happened to the phone? Look at me.
Yes.
After she had the conversation with you, because that would be a natural thing. You would call him up, because now she's living with him, so you'd want some communication with him, and say what happened to the phone.
Yes.
And I want you to tell me because there's a common sense to this, and if it doesn't ring true with my common sense, I'm not going to believe it. I want you to tell me, you called him up and said to him, what happened to the phone?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
He said he dropped it.
And what did you say to him?
I said, there's no way you dropped this phone.
And?
And he said, I dropped it. And he asked me, actually, to come in and lie to you about it because I owed him. And he said that if I didn't lie to you about it and say, yes, he dropped it, that he was going to take it away from me.
Just a second. Did he ever say to you, I don't want her to have the phone?
No.
Never said that to you?
No.
Did you ever tell them that you didn't want her to have a phone?
Absolutely. In fact, there was a time that my daughter could only talk to her on my phone because I wouldn't let her have a phone at all.
When was that?
It was more than one time I had taken the phone away.
After January of 2015?
Well, actually, prior to that as well.
Okay. So as far as you were concerned, if I'm to believe you, you wanted her to have a phone. Let me make sure that I got it right. In February 2015, she called me and said Tim had maliciously destroyed the phone I had bought for... This is your sworn statement. I then received a text from Tim saying that the phone I had purchased had been dismantled.
Correct.
And that I would need to remove my daughter from my phone plan. I spoke with Tim and we had words. The conversation did not end well.
Correct.
Now, Are you telling me at that time he didn't say to you, I don't want her to have a phone?
That's correct.
He didn't say that to you?
That is correct.
Then why did he tell you to remove her from the phone plan?
Because he was purchasing her at a lesser expensive phone so that she could communicate. And it would be not advantageous to me to keep her on my plan when he had her on a different plan.
So he was being nice to you.
For
so
once.
what you're telling me,
Yes.
what you're trying to tell me, Mr. Crutchfield, is he was being nice to you and saying to you, I want to save you money. You can take her off your plan.
No.
I dismantled, just a second, I dismantled the phone. That's what you want me to believe?
No, I don't find it humorous at all either.
Just a second. I'm just asking you if that's what you want me to believe. That when the words that you had with him were because he said to you, I dismantled that phone. You can take her off your phone plan because I want to save you and her mother money, and I'm going to put her on my plan that will be cheaper. Is that what you just told me?
No, ma'am. That's not at all close to what I spoke.
No, that's what you just told me. You want to think about that again?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
16-year-old girl was flunking out of school.
She was failing a few courses, yes, Your Honor. She was failing a few courses.
She flunked out the whole year.
Just a second. Say nothing to me.
I'm sorry.
I got it. Don't you see that I got it?
Judge Judy. Dean Crutchfield says his stepdaughter's father, Timothy Kerrigan, purposely destroyed a phone he purchased for his stepdaughter.
Now, when you had the conversation with the defendant, he didn't say to you, I don't want her to have a phone?
That is correct. He never uttered those words, Your Honor. What I want you to believe is the truth that's coming out of my mouth, not the lies out of his.
Okay. And then we had conversations, and it didn't end well because he was trying to be helpful to you.
No.
I wasn't able to communicate with my daughter, and it was very distressing. I was in the hospital for 5 days due to my knee surgery, and I couldn't move. I ended up having to buy her a new phone. Why did you have to buy her a new phone if he said he was going to buy her a phone?
He didn't say he was going to buy her a phone.
You just told me he said he was going to buy her a less expensive phone and put her on a plan. That's what you just told me. You want me to play back the tape?
Purchased. I didn't say he was going to. The reason, goodness gracious, I have the text here if necessary, with his words, and
Oh, I'd like to see the text.
She wanted to leave, if I could permit to just get everything out, it'd be really wonderful. She wanted to leave his home. She is deathly afraid of her father.
Just a second.
Oh, God.
Explain something to me. Listen to me,
Well,
Mr.
I can't.
Crutchfield. You can't tell me what's in her mind. You can't even tell me what she says.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
She said it.
No, you can't, because she's not here. You can't tell me what she said. All you have to know is a then 16-year-old girl was flunking out of school. And during that period of time that she was in high school, she was living with you and her mother.
She was failing a few courses, yes, Your Honor. She was failing a few courses.
She flunked out the whole year.
Just a second.
Sorry.
I got it. Don't you see that I got it?
In 2015. I don't like the way the tides are turning towards this gentleman who's falsifying evidence.
Just a second.
This is not correct.
Listen to me, sir.
Yes.
When you start out with some sort of a scam, which clearly the marriage, the divorce, and the living together for 10 years has something to do with something, and you have one child that you have to nurture, and her mother doesn't know that she's not in school because the school didn't notify her because it's somebody else's fault, right? I say to myself, now she's got a mother and she's got somebody who calls herself a father. He doesn't know either. And the first thing that I would do is not buy her a lot of phones, because I've had a lot of children and 13 grandchildren. And I want to tell you something. When they start getting grades that don't look so good, I don't buy them a new iPad. Trust me on that. And I don't make it easier for them to contact their no good friends who they're playing hooky with, which is what you did. According to you, you bought her lots of phones.
Over the years, correct.
That's what you said. You bought her another one in November of 2014 when she was flunking out of school.
Not at
That's
that
what
time.
you said.
I didn't say she was flunking out of school.
Well,
in
but the school
2014.
said she was flunking out of school. Her mother said she was flunking out of school.
But I didn't say it.
Her mother said, well, I assume you live together. I assume you do communicate.
Yes.
Yes.
But the reason I
I'm
had
not
to buy her
st-
another phone, you asked me to answer it, and I'm trying to answer it if I may.
Ridiculous.
She was deathly afraid of her father. I know she should be here now, but...
Just a second.
Just
You
was-
can't
finish this.
tell me that she's deathly afraid of her father. I just told you that's not evidence. I don't hear it. It calls for the operation of somebody else's mind.
Hearsay.
Do you understand? Now you understand.
I was informed it'd be pragmatic not to bring her to this court, being that you don't like pitting a child against their parent. So I didn't
Just
bring
listen
her.
to me.
Would never allow
Just
it.
Your choice.
listen to me. I'm telling you, you can't tell me what's in somebody else's mind. That's not evidence. It's not admissible in a court of law, and I'm not hearing it. So if that's what you have to tell me, I'm not listening. I'm reading your text. Oh, this is a very interesting text message. It says, "Hey, Dean, I tried to give you a call, but I'm just going to fill you in on a couple of things real quick. One, phone is been dismantled." I don't understand
Big
the
thumbs.
English. "She no longer has service with you, so you might want to shut off the phone. Number one." That was number one. You can go back to writing or something, because this makes no sense. Number two, "I sincerely hope that you have not filed with my daughter on your tax return, or there will be repercussions of that. I'm just leaving that at that. I'm not trying to threaten you or anything, but I'm just telling you that's exactly how it's going today. Have a good day. Thank you very much." Now, what is that supposed to prove to me?
It just proves that one moment, if I may do something, I'm having to stop and do something else and answer something else. This is not a dismantled phone. This is an intentional, malicious, destroyed phone with his heel that his daughter witnessed.
That's fine, sir. I'm going to resolve this case very easily. I'm going to resolve this case very easily. Did you buy that phone for his daughter?
Yes,
And when did you give it to her?
November 2014.
Was there an occasion?
Birthday present and a superior phone.
When is her birthday?
April. It's an $800 phone. It's going to be a combination, Christmas and birthday.
So you gave her a gift.
Correct.
Once you give a gift, you have no interest in it anymore. You have no standing to sue.
I have no interest in it.
Once you give a gift to someone, it's their gift. You have no standing to sue on behalf of this child.
I'm still paying for it.
I don't care. That's your problem. You buy a gift that you can't afford, and you're still paying for it. That's your problem. You have no standing. Once you give a gift to someone, you've lost all. If you gave it to her as a combination birthday and Christmas present, it's her gift. Goodbye. Thank you very much. Case is over.
What is our excuse? You may step out.
She is terrified of her father.
Absolutely not. I could show you something on my cell phone that
She was in a car with me, and he called her. His number came up on her phone. She curled in the embryonic position, started to cry.
she sang to me for Father's Day and the whole 9 yards.
Towards the window. She's terrified of her father.
No, she loves the death out of me. I'm a little more strict than her mom would be.
She's
For you forever?
A boy's crime hits close to home.
I took the keys from my mom's purse.
So you snuck into your mother's room?
I don't have a license. Obviously, I'm 15 years old.
Then he hit the road.
I got in the car, drove to a friend's house. We were going for a joyride. We hit a curb, a fence, a bed.
How many times have you been arrested?
Twice.
He's a little bit of a sociopath.
Judge Judy. You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheindler. The people are real. The cases are real. The rulings are final. This is Judge Judy.
Beth and Frank Warstein claim Bailey Brunk and his friend were fleeing from police when they crashed a car into their fence and storage shed. Bailey says he wasn't the driver.
Yo, partner. Yeah, it's case number 354 on the calendar in the matter of Warstein versus Brunk.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
What's your first name?
Bailey,
How old are you, Bailey?
15.
How many other people live in your house?
4.
Who are they?
My sister Judy.
How old is she?
17.
And?
My sister Erin, she's 21. My mom, 47. My older sister's boyfriend, he's 23.
Mom work?
Yes, ma'am.
What does she do?
She works for Planning and Zoning Resources in Oklahoma City.
She works 5 days a week?
Yes, ma'am.
She supports your family?
Yes.
Does your sister work?
Yes.
And her boyfriend work?
Yes.
What do you do?
Go to school.
How'd you do in school last semester?
All right. Not like great.
Well, what's all right? Give me in what's all right.
B's, C's.
How many times have you been arrested?
Twice.
For what?
Second-degree burglary.
Whose house did you burglarize?
I broke into a gas station.
You broke into a gas station?
Yes.
For what?
Money.
Who did you break into the gas station with?
Just myself.
Just you?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty bold of you. And how old were you when you broke into the gas station?
14.
Just last year. And what were you arrested for the second time?
Violating probation.
And how did you violate probation?
Failed a drug test.
And what was your drug of choice?
Marijuana.
And what do you use to buy the marijuana? The money from the gas station?
No.
Because you and I both know, Bailey, that I'm the luckiest boy in the world, right?
No.
So we both know that the gas station that you got caught burglarizing was not the first place that you burglarized.
No.
Right. You're smart. Easy. You should fish in a barrel.
That's right.
Your sister ever been arrested?
No.
Your younger sister ever been arrested?
No.
That would be you?
I'm the older sister.
You're the older sister. You ever been arrested?
No, ma'am.
Got a nice boyfriend?
Yes.
You ever been arrested?
Nope.
You think your mother wants to mop up after you forever?
No.
Well, what are you doing to help her not mop up after you forever?
Doing what I can now. I've been doing good.
Since when?
I guess since after that.
After what?
After all this, what happened?
What's all this what happened? Now you can tell me what's all this what happened. Because I know you haven't been attending your English class. Go.
Okay. I took the keys from my mom's purse when she went to the
Where was your
bathroom.
mom's purse?
In her room.
So you snuck into your mother's room
Yes.
while she was sleeping?
She was in the bathroom.
She was in the bathroom?
Yes.
And what did you do with the keys?
I got in the car, drove to a friend's house. We were going for a joyride. He wanted a pack of cigarettes. I don't have a license. Obviously, I'm 15 years old. I drive to his house. We switch cars because he's 17, he has a license. Or we switch seats. I get in the passenger seat, he gets in the driver's seat. We take off, we get to a stoplight. He knows there's a cop behind us. I'm scrummaging looking for a CD. I turn the light off because there's a cop. As soon as the light goes green, cop flips his lights on. And my idiot friend starts freaking out. I'm telling him pull over the whole time. He pulls over into an addition, and the addition goes up into a cul-de-sac. We go around the cul-de-sac and park. The cop comes and parks right in the middle of the cul-de-sac. He gasses it and takes off around the cop, like donuts around the cop, and we go out of the neighborhood. As soon as he turned on the neighborhood, I'm like, oh great, I put my seatbelt on. I knew something was going to happen. So we ran like a stop sign, a stop light. By this time, there's 3 cops on us. So it was raining.
It's not funny.
It was raining that day. It was wet outside. He tries to take a left turn at approximately 80 miles an hour. We hit a curb, a fence, a shed. And by this time, I was pretty scared, so I got out of the car. I jumped the fence. I ran. The cops caught me a couple blocks, and he didn't even get out of the grass.
Have you ever spent any time in juvenile facility?
Yes, ma'am.
How long?
A couple months.
Was that on the violation?
On this violation?
No, on the violation for failing your drug test.
Yes.
But not on the original case, the original burglary. They gave you a break and placed you on probation?
No, I was there for a couple weeks.
A couple of weeks?
Yes.
That's no time at all. Did you like it in jail?
No.
So what'd you steal your mother's keys for?
Just want to have fun, wasn't thinking, obviously.
Your mother looks like a nice lady.
She is.
How embarrassed do you think she is every time she has to go to court for you?
Probably pretty embarrassed.
She's pretty embarrassed. Don't you care?
Yeah, I care.
Doesn't sound like you care.
Okay, you can say that.
I am saying that.
Go ahead.
I am saying that. Sometimes when I'm fantasizing, I doubt the wisdom of giving up corporal punishment in schools. It's just a fantasy. I don't want to get any mail. I really don't believe in it.
Right.
Should have reported the car stolen and let him sit in jail for a couple of months.
The thought crossed my mind.
I know it did. I can see that it did.
It did.
You want to know why? Because he's a little bit of a sociopath. He really doesn't get it. Because he's smart enough to get it. You know, I can see. I've dealt with kids long enough to know that he's not stupid. You know, you have some people that are just dull-witted, and they may never get it, but it's not their fault. He gets it, and he doesn't care. He understands how difficult it is for you. He understands how difficult it is for his siblings. He appreciates it up here, but here, I don't know if it's going to change.
I'm hopeful that it will. But I gave birth to him.
I know, but the court system didn't. And neither did these neighbors. Because stand up on your own 2 feet and put your hands at your sides. Because these neighbors didn't give birth to him, and it was their property that he damaged. Put your hands at your sides, I said. Sides, you understand the word? They didn't give birth to him, so they can't be held responsible for what he did. You have to be responsible for what he did because it's true. You gave birth to him. And knowing the kind of person he is, you have to keep your keys locked in your pocketbook is not good enough because he's a thief. He burglarized a lot of places before he got caught in the gas station.
I take exception to that.
He told me he did. Oh, he's just saying he only burglarized one before he got caught. So you did hold up one finger, right?
I got caught with that place too. It was in the same night.
But you told me you only got arrested twice.
I did.
So this was
Judge Judy. Beth and Frank Warstein are suing Deborah Brunk and her 15-year-old son Bailey for damage to their fence and storage shed.
Can I see pictures of your destroyed property, please?
The top picture is what it looked like before. That's the before.
This isn't your car.
That's her car.
Did you have collision insurance?
I did, and an absolute battle to get insurance to pay.
I can believe it. I wouldn't want to pay either.
They did. We had a contract.
Well,
eventually, they paid.
But not us.
That's a lot of damage. No, I understand. at your sides. I understand that these nice people gave you an opportunity to come over and clean up some of this mess.
I did.
And how many hours did you spend there doing it?
About
How
an
many
hour.
hours did he spend there?
2. He wasn't feeling good.
Did you finish?
Hmm?
Did you finish?
Yeah, till he told me to leave. I stayed there till he told me that he was did all I could do.
Main reason I asked him to go ahead and go, he was sick and I didn't want to get a cold.
And he never came back?
He offered to one time later, but we were already done.
How much later?
2 weeks.
He never called till the jobs were completed.
That's why I gave them my phone number, so when I left they could call me. I told them if they needed
Got what I
anything
mean?
else I needed to do.
Sociopath. You have estimates for me?
Yes. That was our...
When you get finished here, Mr. Brunk, you can go and you can look up the word sociopath.
This was the original.
Okay.
Did you pay the court costs and the filing fees?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
I don't know what you can do with him. His problem is he's smart. And if you can channel some of this aggression into an appropriate path, maybe. Because he's smart, he has the capability. Otherwise, he's going to be big trouble. It's not that he's not stupid. He's going to get into big trouble. And there's a sense of entitlement about him that I find a little frightening. Just telling you. Been in the business for a while. You got a full plate with him. Girls are much easier.
They are much easier.
I know. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,980.63.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Are excused. You may step out.
I think parents nowadays are a little more lenient with their children than they should be.
I don't necessarily agree with some of her conclusions about his behavior.
I think parents really need to be more involved with their children's lives.
I'm his mom. I really do hope that, we can turn some of this around.
Make them feel like that there's consequences if they do something wrong.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Campbell versus Bartolome. Step forward, please.
25-year-old Tiffany Campbell is suing the father of her child, Anthony Bartolome II, for the balance on a car and for legal fees.
Ms. Campbell, you and Mr. Bartolome have a child together. Your complaint is as follows. You had a car. Mr. Bartolome co-signed on the car, but he was the primary on the loan.
Yes.
Is that correct, Mr. Bartolome?
I did not know that I was the primary. I co-signed.
She says you were the primary on the loan. I assume you have the paperwork to show me.
Yes.
Right? You say that you gave Mr. Bartolome $1,200 in order to make car payments and pay for your daughter's daycare. Was this before or after you had broken up?
This was after.
And Mr. Bartolome got himself into trouble, according to you, and used that money to bail himself out of jail.
Yes.
What'd you get in trouble for? Is not an answer. What did you
She
get
gave me
in trouble
$1,600.
No, just
not,
what did you get in
not $1,200. It was $1,600.
What did you get in trouble for was my question.
Minor possession.
Minor possession of what?
Of marijuana.
And did you require bail?
Yes, with a friend, and I paid for that $1,000 out of my own tax money. So I don't know where she's coming with that. $1,200. She gave me $1,600 for selling a '99 Altima of hers.
Right. And what did you do with that money?
$300 of it was to go toward her Kia payment.
Yes.
And the car was the Kia.
Just a second. Did you make the car payment with $300?
I was going to, Your Honor.
No, that's not what I asked you. I said, did you make the car payment?
The car was repossessed 3 days later before I
Did
could
you
make
make the
No,
car
ma'am.
payment? Is the answer. So you did not. You say because of that the car was repossessed, right?
Correct.
How many months hadn't you made payments? Is not an answer.
Sorry.
How many months hadn't you made payments?
I believed I was only one payment behind because the state
Maybe two. Right?
been, yes.
Well, that's not his fault. That's
No.
your fault.
The
Fault.
spouse.
You don't need a statement to tell you when to make a car payment, right?
And I was still making those payments.
Well, evidently not, because they repossessed your car.
Well, I have a statement showing that
You just
when I
told
made
me
the
that you
payments.
missed one, maybe two payments.
Right, the
Before
one that I-
this thing with him, with the $300.
Right.
All right, so it's not his fault. That's your fault.
I still believed that it's his fault because
That's
I
not
gave
his
him the
fault if
money
you
to
don't-
make the payments.
It's not his fault if you didn't make the payments.
I still believe he's reliable for half because we both signed a contract together.
That's wrong. It's your car.
And the loan was in both of our names.
That was only as an accommodation to you.
No, I don't
Oh,
believe so.
yeah. Well,
It
I
was-
don't care what you believe.
It was our vehicle for our child.
Me. Now, it was your car for you to drive with your child. How did you get around, sir?
I had my own vehicle.
He has his own car.
It was a vehicle that we purchased together as a family vehicle.
Listen to me, madam. In what month and year did you and the defendant no longer lived together as a couple?
July 2007.
And when was the car repossessed?
September 2008.
That's a year. It's your car, not his responsibility at all. Your responsibility.
I paid off the loan in full.
Good for you.
I still
It was
believe
your
that
car.
he owes me half.
I don't care what you believe. He doesn't owe you half. You failed to make payments. Your car was repossessed. The theory of your case is that, well, since he signed on the loan, he should be responsible for half.
He should be. It's a legal document. He signed his name to a legal document to be responsible for half, or at least the full amount.
Listen to me. In the year that you had the car, did you make the payments, with the exception of the one or two maybe that you missed? Did you make the full payment on the loan each month?
Yeah.
That's because it's your car. He didn't make half and you made half. You made the whole payment on the car because that was your understanding, that it was your car. He had his car. He made his own payments on his car. You made payments on your car. That's the deal. You failed to make payments. They repossessed your car. Tough it out.
I didn't know that I was even late. All of the statements were being mailed to him. They were in his name.
You should have taken care of it.
I tried.
Oh, no,
He refused to
trying
give
is
me
not
any of the
good enough.
statements.
Trying is not good enough. You have to do it. You have to go into the bank and say, I'm not getting my statements.
I did.
I missed 2 statements.
I did on more than one occasion. And
Oh,
they said
please,
they were
Miss Campbell, stop being a crybaby. He doesn't owe you any money. It's your car. It's your problem. You did the wrong thing and you got caught. Now, you in a custody dispute with him at this time?
Yes.
And you're in a custody dispute, so you want guardian ad litem fees that you have to pay. Now, you want to tell me how this custody dispute came about?
Let's see. Because he was arrested, I told him flat out, he's been arrested on more than one occasion. He's been held up at gunpoint for drugs. I told him that flat out, no more. My child, I'm not putting her in that position anymore. You can come see her, you can call me, you can meet me somewhere, but my child is not going with you because God forbid you get pulled over again and arrested
Just a
again.
minute. When did you tell him this?
Right after my second daughter was born, so early 2009.
And what was the date of your last arrest, sir?
July of this year.
So she told you that you were going to have supervised visitation right after you were arrested.
No, I'm sorry, Your Honor. That was December. I'm confused on my last arrest. I didn't realize that was going to get brought up. That was probably around April, actually, of this year.
And she told you in July that she was going to request supervised visits with your daughter.
No, actually, she kept Bella for almost 2 months. Father's Day was in the center of that.
Father's Day is in June.
Right. We broke up about April 1st again. We were together up until April 1st of this year.
Who's the father of your second child?
Kevin, he's not here.
Well, there was somebody in between.
Yes, ma'am.
We were not together, Your Honor. He left me 3 days before
I said there was
our
somebody
wedding.
in between. If you
We
broke
never got back together, so there is no in between.
That's a lie. We were back together for 7 months.
No, it's not.
I don't know who to believe and who not. In any event, the court directed that a guardian ad litem be assigned to your case.
Yes.
In order to help make a judgment as to visitation.
Yes.
Right? He's not responsible to pay your guardian ad litem fees. Did you have to pay your own guardian ad litem fees?
Yes, Your Honor.
How much were yours?
$500.
And how much are yours?
$500.
That's
At
what
the
you
time
pay.
that I made the payment, he had not made his, and because of this, it's delayed the proceedings.
Well, I assume that if he delays the proceeding, he's going to delay getting the kind of visitation or contact with his child that he wants.
Only we're doing week on, week off, which I do not like at all.
Whether
Because
you like
she would have it
just
that
a
I would
second,
not see
whether
my
you
daughter
like
at
it
all.
or not is irrelevant. Is that what the court ordered?
Actually, it has not been ordered at all. It's been set up between the attorneys.
Well,
The guardian
if
ad
you
litem
had-
said that.
You had an attorney, and if you have an attorney, and that's what your attorney consented to, you're trying to tell me that the attorney, Ms. Campbell, consented to that kind of an arrangement without consulting you?
Yes.
Well, then you should get a new attorney. Your case is dismissed, that's all.
Why is that excused? You may step out.
He is 31 years old, lives with his parents, has no job.
She just got her own place last week. She lived with her mother up until then.
He's never been responsible for anything a day in his life.
She's just trying to get money. She lives off the system, so.
He can't even be
Got her money.
I would say that it was a boyfriend helping a girlfriend so she does not lose her home.
I said, you told me you'd pay me $125 a week.
Their relationship was over.
When did you cease to be boyfriend and girlfriend?
We had broken.
Was in no mood to deal.
I offered to let her pay me $50 a month. She threw her arms up in the air, Your Honor, and started screaming out, "Somebody help me." She tells me she's a kickboxer. She's not afraid to hit a man.
Judge Judy. You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheindlin. The people are real. The cases are real. The rulings are final. This is Judge Judy.
Glenn Kavanaugh, is suing his ex-girlfriend, Shauna Zoll, for a loan to pay her rent, loss of wages, and for filing false charges with the police.
Order. All rise. That's case number 360 on the calendar in the matter of Kavanaugh versus Zoll.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mr. Kavanaugh, you and the defendant, according to your complaint, briefly dated, and you claim that you made a loan to her when she needed money to pay rent. She took the money, and when you wanted it back, she filed a protective order against you that was subsequently dismissed. Your lawsuit wants the money back that you loaned to her, and you want compensation for the frivolous action that she brought against you for a protective order. Ms. Zoll says that the money she acknowledges that you gave her was a gift, never any strings attached, and that she had good cause to file for protective order because of your conduct. When did you give her the money for rent?
September 10th this year, Your Honor.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding you giving her the money.
She approached me at my house.
She came to your house?
She came to my house and told me that she didn't have money for rent and that she was going to be thrown out of her apartment.
Did she call first before she came over?
Yes.
Well, tell me about the conversation when she called first.
She called and said that she wanted to borrow money and come over and talk about covering her rent money.
Had she come over to your house before?
Oh, yeah.
So she came over, she told you she was short on rent, and?
She told me she was short on rent, and she told me that if she didn't make her rent, that she would have to leave the Huntington Beach area, move back in with her mother in San Diego, and she would lose her business as a personal trainer, and that if she didn't make her rent, that she would basically be leaving town.
Okay, so? So
I wrote her a check and said, if you can pay me back $125 per week. She agreed to do that. I wrote her the check.
How much was the check?
$500, Your Honor.
Okay, what happened?
A couple of weeks went by, almost a couple of weeks, and I asked her for the money. She told me that she had a negative account balance of $52 and that she was just a little bit snooty about it. And I said, well, you know, you agreed to pay me $125 a week. And at that time, about 12 days had gone by, and she agreed to pay me.
Between September 10th, when you gave her the check, and the roughly 12 days or 2 weeks, had you seen her?
I had seen her off and on.
Well, tell me about being off and being on, Mr. Kavanaugh.
We see each other in social situations.
Like?
Like we go to a recovery program together.
How many times a week?
I usually go, I go several times a week.
And Ms. Zoll?
She shows up maybe once a week.
Is that the only time you see her in your recovery program?
After our breakup, yeah.
Well, prior to your breakup, between September 10th and, say, September 30th, how often did you see her?
Just at the program.
So at the time you wrote her a check, you were not dating?
No, we were dating.
Well, when did you stop dating?
She quit calling or contacting me immediately right after she cashed the check. And I have phone records based on like multiple text messages prior to that just basically stopped right after the 10th.
When did you have this confrontation that she talks about in her counterclaim?
Well, Your Honor, on the 21st of October, we're walking out of the meeting, and I said, you told me you'd pay me $125 a week. She then stated that she had no money and that she couldn't pay me back any of the money. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to have to get that money back. And I offered to let her pay me $50 a month. At that point, she started screaming out, somebody help me, somebody help me. I'm afraid to walk with this guy. She's yelling at other people that are walking out of the meeting. Okay, and so we walk out to the car, and there's
we?
Her and I, we walk out to the car. She tells me she's a kickboxer. She tells me she's not afraid to hit a man and that she's going to call the cops. And I said, all right, I'll walk away. She screams out again, Cooper, to this other guy, help me. I'm afraid to be with this guy. Cooper stands there because nothing's going on, so he just stands there.
No, ma'am.
No, Cooper was the guy that was in the parking lot.
Were you there that night on October 21st?
Yes, I was there.
In the parking lot?
No, I was not in the parking lot. I was still at the meeting, and they had walked away.
Perfect. Stand up. Your last name is?
Holobik.
Okay, you're coming out of a meeting, and tell me what you saw.
I'm coming out of the meeting, and at this time, Glenn is walking back towards the meeting hall. Had come up to me, because he knows that I'm friends with her, and stated that him and her just got into a huge argument over some money that...
No, tell me what he said to you.
Oh, he said to me that he asked me if I was dating her, and that if me and her were having sex and stuff like that, and stay away from her, that she was gonna, if I...
When did he have the discussion with you about the money? We went from money to having sex with her.
Your Honor.
Just shh. When did he say? They just had a huge argument about money. You just started to tell me that, and all of a sudden you shifted gears.
That's how the conversation went. He went from saying that that the conversation was about the money, and that...
No, tell me about the conversation. Tell me what he said to you.
He told me that stay away from her, that she's trouble.
Are you not understanding me?
I'm telling you exactly what he told me.
No, you told me a lot of things, sir. You said, came up to you and he said, we just had an argument over money.
Correct.
And you just left that out.
That's what it started with. He came up to me and he said
Who's
that
they came up to you?
No, just Glenn had to come up to me.
Came up to me and he said what?
Sean and I just got into an argument.
Okay, and what would be your normal reaction?
About what?
Right. And he said about?
Some money that she had owed me from the past.
And you said?
I didn't say anything and I let him continue talking.
Okay, and after he said about money that she owed him, he said what?
Are you dating her?
Okay, and you said?
No, we're just friends.
Are you having sex with her? And you said?
No.
No. And what did he say then?
He said, you're good because if you were, she'd probably screw you over too. And he was very...
Perfect.
Exactly.
Sit down. Thank you.
Your Honor, can I...
Shh.
No.
Not yet. You want to tell me about the $500 that he gave you?
Yes, I would love to. Glenn Kavanaugh, on the week of September 7th, Your Honor, gave me a check to help me with my rent. At that time, I was dating Glenn. He offered to help me. He had the money.
He offered after you asked him?
Yes.
How much after September 10th did you stop communicating with him?
I actually, a week or two later, I had offered to him. There was no way I was going to be able to give him that money back. I wouldn't say it's a gift. I would say that it was a boyfriend helping a girlfriend so she does not lose her home. I never agreed to $125 a week.
Why don't you answer my question?
I'm sorry, what was it?
My question was, how much after he gave you the check did you stop calling him?
I didn't stop calling him. 2 weeks later, I had called him and asked him if he wanted to do my boot camp.
You said you were boyfriend and girlfriend.
Right.
When did you cease to be boyfriend and girlfriend?
We had broken up a week later.
That's my question to you, madam. How come?
Because he's verbally abusive.
What did he do that was verbally abusive between September 10th when he gave you the check and September 17th?
Just his demeanor. And in the past, I have dated people who
well, tell me about
his. Way, so.
Tell me about how his demeanor changed from September 17th when you broke up with him.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Glenn Kavanaugh says ex-girlfriend Shauna Zoll owes for a loan for rent and a false restraining order. Shauna claims Glenn is violent.
Because all this happened within 5 days of you going to his house and asking him for money for your rent. So you were dating him for a while.
But within those 5 days, he became violent. So.
Baloney. Baloney. You show me anywhere in your application for a protective order that it says that between the 10th of September and the 17th of September, he became violent. Show me, and I will apologize to you. Show me in your application for a protective order where it said that, Ms. Zoll.
They wouldn't allow me to
Don't tell me what they wouldn't allow. It either is there or it's not there.
No, I don't have the text messages
of
him being threatened. They wouldn't allow me to have it without an attorney.
Of course not.
I'm just letting you know.
You don't have to let me know. I know exactly what's going on.
Okay.
Precisely. If you don't like the heat, you stay out of the kitchen. And if you don't like his demeanor, if you don't like his attitude, if you don't like anything, then don't take money from him under the guise of being a boyfriend helping a girlfriend out.
This was
because if he was your boyfriend, then within a week of him giving you money, you wouldn't have already had an epiphany about all these bad traits that you couldn't tolerate. Do you understand where I'm going?
Yes.
Perfect. You owe him the $500. Now, you tell me on what basis you filed for a protective order against him.
Because I believe he's violent.
I don't care what you believe. I don't care what you believe.
I had to grab 2 other men, Your Honor, to protect me. And at that time, the second man that I had grabbed...
Just a second. Is one of them here?
No, he's not. He has to work.
Everybody
and
has to work.
He couldn't be here. Well,
everybody has to work. Tell me on what basis you filed for a protective order against him. What did he do and when?
He's a 6'5", 250 man approaching me in my face. I'm having to let him know that I can protect myself because I can. If I'm having to tell a man that I know kickboxing and I'm feeling in defense because they're in my face, isn't that violence?
No.
How is that not?
No.
Really?
It's not.
Well, then I don't.
No.
Then
no. You did.
Because
you had
felt
2
approached.
choices. Either you could say to him at that point, because he felt like an idiot, I'm going to give you back your money because I read what you wrote. And I read what you just said to me. You called him 2 weeks later and you wanted him to come and take some lessons that you would give him to pay off this money.
And I have signatures.
That's what you just told me.
Right.
That in and of itself suggests to me that he made a loan to you.
No, I was doing that
I'm speaking. Try not to interrupt me. I'm using your words.
No problem.
I'm using your words. So if he made a loan to you and then you dumped him within a week, he feels like he's been used. So if you want him not to feel as if he's been used, you say to him, I don't have $100 a week. I'll give you $50 a week. I'll do whatever I can. I'll go and get a job at McDonald's, and I'm going to pay you $50 a week until this money is paid off so you don't feel like an idiot. But what you don't do if somebody gets in your face and says to you, I'm really angry. You took me for $500. I gave it to you because we were dating. Then you dumped me. And now you won't talk to me. That's outrageous. How many times did you have to go, Mr. Kavanaugh, to court before this protective order was dismissed?
Twice, Your Honor.
And did Ms. Zoll show up on either of those occasions?
Both occasions, Your Honor.
And what happened when you went to court for the protective order?
They gave her a temporary restraining order until we had a court date on November 17th.
And what happened on that day?
It was dismissed.
Did you have a trial?
Yes, we did.
Good. Can I see the results of the hearing?
Sure. There's also the results of William was supposed to be our witness there, Your Honor. But
Can I just see the results
he
of
was
the
dismissed as
hearing?
a witness because he wasn't credible.
Did you have a trial on that day, Ms. Zoll?
Yes, I did.
And was your case dismissed?
Yes, it was.
After trial?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. What do you want?
It was dismissed with prejudice.
Of course it was dismissed with prejudice, madam.
Against him, against Glenn.
No. Don't you understand? Listen, come over here. I have to give you a lesson. I have to give you a lesson because you have to understand what with prejudice means. It means against her.
Oh,
do you understand?
he's talking about...
No, it means against her. If a court dismisses a case against somebody who brought the case after a trial, they dismiss it with prejudice, which means you can't file it again. Now, do you understand?
Well, the judge said...
Don't tell me what the judge said. I just read what the judge said. Sit down. You owe him $500 for the loan and $500 for his inconvenience. That's all. Step out.
Thank you. What is our excuse? Sir, stay here.
If this is what he needs in order for him to have his $1,000, then God bless him. He's a mess.
Every once in a while you come across a person that ought to be ashamed of themselves, and they just aren't.
I did tell him thank you, and it was a gift.
Just stay away from psycho women.
I'm done.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Garabedian versus Houston, step forward.
Brandy Garabedian is suing her ex-boyfriend, Kenneth Houston, for loans to pay his bills and towing fees.
Ms. Garabedian, your complaint alleges that you made a loan to the defendant, who was then your boyfriend, in August of 2009, after you had cashed in a 401k, according to you, in order to purchase a car. Mr. Houston said he would pay you back. He did, in fact, according to you, pay you back $250 of the $1,500 that you claimed that you loaned to him. Mr. Houston says there was never a loan. You were merely repaying him for bailing you out of jail and many other things in August of 2009 when you were arrested for forgery. Were you arrested for forgery in August of 2009, Ms. Garabedian?
I was bailed. He bailed me.
Just a second. Were you arrested for forgery?
Yes,
is my
I was.
question. Were you bailed out?
No.
So you remained in jail until your arraignment?
No. Well, they OR'd me.
So you were never bailed?
I was bailed for driving while suspended.
How much?
$100.
Who paid it?
Kenny Houston paid it.
And is it your claim that you paid $1,000 for her bail, sir?
No, it was 100, Your Honor.
Well, how does $1,500 balance? You say she was really paying you back for things you had done for her. So explain that to me.
Well, there were a number of things in the past.
Give me an example. Month and year.
It would have been in 2008 when she was going to Seattle for work. I'd given her money.
How much?
That occasion was $250.
And?
There were numerous occasions. I never thought
I want you to tell me.
Okay. I didn't document them when they were given to her because I didn't think I would
Because they were gifts.
Correct, yes.
Fine. Now I want you to tell me, Ms. Garabedian, the circumstances surrounding this $1,500.
Kenny had just broken his leg. He was not able to work both of his jobs that he normally worked. He asked me for a loan. He knew that I had just cashed in my 401k.
How did he know that?
Because I told him.
How much was your 401k?
$8,000.
Why did you cash it in?
To buy a car and to pay my student loans off and to pay my bills off.
What did he say about repaying the loan?
He said he would have it repaid within a week. He has 2 jobs. His family owns 2 businesses. I had no reason to think that he wouldn't pay me back.
And that was in August of 2009?
August 8th of 2009 is when I loaned it.
And when did he make the first payment to you?
Approximately 2 weeks later, after calling him and texting him and emailing him, he paid me $20.
Do you have any of his response emails?
No, he never responded to any of my emails or texts. I went to his house, and he called the police to have me removed from the property.
When?
August 29th.
Were you drunk?
No.
What time of the day was it?
Morning. It was before 9 a.m.
And what did you say to him when you got there?
I knocked on the door, and I heard him inside calling the police. And I sat there and kept on knocking on the door because the day before, I had bought a car.
I bought a car.
and I had a remaining balance left, and which I expected that I would have the money I loaned Kenny, and they came and repossessed my car.
How much did you put down on the car?
I put down $1,500 on the car.
And what'd you do with the other $6,500?
I paid my student loans off. I paid bills off.
And you gave him $1,500?
Correct.
Now I'll hear you.
Basically, after
I don't want to
bailing,
hear basically.
okay, after bailing her out of jail on the 8th, I explained to her I was going through financial hardship. I really didn't have the money to bail her out. She said, well, I just cashed in my 401k. If you'd like, for basically repayment for all the years giving her money, which I didn't document, here's a gift of the $1,500.
I don't believe you.
That was the case.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, that was how it worked.
No, that's how it worked in your mind. In your convoluted mind. That's how it worked. Do you know how I know that that's not how it worked, Mr. Houston?
How's that?
Because Miss Garabedian had enough income to have put together $8,000.
We're often taught that to achieve success and happiness, we need to control everything. Our work, our relationships, even our future. But what happens when the more we try to control, the more exhausted and lost we feel? The real key lies in the opposite, letting go. Detach yourself from what's beyond your reach and focus on your own journey. Stoic philosophy isn't about being emotionless or shirking responsibility. It's the art of recognizing what you can change and knowing when to release what you cannot. When you learn to let go and concentrate on what truly matters, you'll not only find peace, but also uncover an inner strength you never knew existed. In today's video, I'll share with you 7 practical methods to help you let go of unnecessary burdens and focus on your own path. These are real-life experiences I've gone through, lessons I've paid a price to learn. So, stay focused and don't miss a single part of this video. This could be the first step in discovering your true path. Number 1. When less becomes everything. I want to begin with a simple yet challenging question. What is taking up too much space in your life? It could be material possessions, relationships, other people's expectations, or even those relentless negative thoughts. We often believe that having more will make us happier. But is that really the case? The more we accumulate, the more exhausted we become. The more we hold on, the more we feel the weight of loss. Stoic philosophy taught me that happiness doesn't come from gaining more, but from learning to let go. Epictetus once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." That quote hit me like a wake-up call after years of relentlessly chasing success and validation. I used to believe that a high-paying job would grant me freedom, but when I finally achieved it, I realized I had merely traded one form of chains for another. Work pressures, family and societal expectations, the constant fear of failure looming over me. It was a gilded cage I had locked myself. There came a time when I decided to let go of it all. My stable job, unnecessary social ties, and even the habit of comparing myself to others. I left the city with just a small backpack and spent a few months living in the countryside. At first, the lack of things unsettled me. No internet, no hectic schedules, no one reminding me of what I should be doing. But gradually, I began to feel an odd sense of relief. I no longer had to force myself into the version of me that society expected. I started to notice beauty in the little things, the morning sunlight, the scent of fresh grass, and the calm that settled in my mind. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." As I let go of negative thoughts and invisible pressures, I found my mind clearer and more at peace than ever before. But how do we truly live with less? It's not just about shedding material possessions. It's a deep, spiritual journey. First, try practicing mindfulness. Each day, set aside some time to sit still and do nothing. It sounds simple, but in today's fast-paced world, sitting quietly without feeling guilty or anxious is a real challenge. When you allow yourself to pause, you'll start to notice what you truly need. Next, Declutter both your living space and your mind. You can begin by removing unnecessary items from your home, those things you keep just in case, but really, they only clutter your space. Similarly, examine the thoughts and relationships that drain your energy. Do you really need to stay connected with everyone? Do all criticisms deserve your attention? Another practice that has been incredibly effective for me is minimalist journaling. Instead of listing endless tasks,